This episode is brought to you by the new true crime docuseries American Nightmare, only on Netflix. In 2015, the Vallejo, California Police Department received a strange phone call about a kidnapping. But when the truth is stranger than fiction, you won't know who to trust or what is real. A fast-paced true crime thriller with cliffhangers at every turn. Watch American Nightmare now, only on Netflix.
Did it put her in danger? Probably.
I felt that I had a personal terrorist.
Oh my God, I don't even know if she's alive anymore.
Everyone was worried and everyone was scared that they could be next.
Highly unusual for someone to wake up one morning and say, you know what, today's the day I want to become a serial killer.
You're listening to True Crime Arizona, the podcast.
Scottsdale, Arizona, a city that's known for upscale fun, full of trendy restaurants, beautiful golf courses, high-end resorts, and bustling nightlife. It's a destination vacation for many. You just can't beat sunshine poolside with a cocktail in hand. The crime in Scottsdale is low, something that attracts families to its neighborhoods. So what happened as May turned to June in 2018 shook the entire town to its core.
During those 5 days, it seemed like it was the longest days we've experienced ever.
The person at the center of a race against time to find a serial killer, Scottsdale Police Sergeant Hugh Lockerbie, and he's where our story begins.
Everyone was worried and everyone was scared that they could be next.
May 31st, 2018, on the border of North Scottsdale and Phoenix, police get a call. A man gunned down inside his office building. The victim, a shocking name, a name many people were familiar with.
Stephen Pitt, just his notoriety, his fame, that just really made this a very important case.
We have someone who's operating in the community, who's committing serial offenses.
That's Stephen Pitt, talking to a TV reporter. Stephen Pitt wasn't just known in Arizona. He was a world-renowned forensic psychiatrist.
Each subsequent offense becomes more intoxicating for the offender. And ultimately, it's that intoxication that leads them to become sloppy. The sloppiness leads them to leave behind physical evidence. The physical evidence results ultimately in their apprehension and arrest.
Often interviewed for stories in Arizona, his skills and expertise were used on a grander scale too. He worked extensively on the John Benet Ramsey murder case, the Columbine High School shooting massacre, the Baseline killer case. The list goes on. His talents were unmatched.
It's highly unusual for someone to wake up one morning and say, you know what, today's the day I want to become a serial killer. It just doesn't work that way.
At the time, investigators didn't know why Stephen Pitt would be targeted. They also didn't know his death would be the first in a series of ambush murders by a killer who was already 2 steps ahead of police.
Driving my bus, there's a lady, she just came running up to me and she's bleeding.
Not even 24 hours after Pitt was found dead, a bus driver in Old Town Scottsdale makes a frantic emergency call.
Oh my God, I don't even know if she's alive anymore.
It's June 1st. The bus was stopped on a side street in busy Old Town Scottsdale, near popular parks and restaurants, with businesses nearby. The woman had come running toward the bus from a law office on that street, and the bus driver was right. The woman collapsed and was pronounced dead at the hospital. She wasn't the only person to die there.
He called me immediately and he said, Elizabeth, you need to come down to the office.
Attorney Elizabeth Feldman had left her law office early that Friday. The name? Burt Feldman Grenier, a law firm specializing in divorce, child support, and other parts of family law. Elizabeth waved goodbye to her paralegals, Valeria Sharp and Laura Anderson. She had been good friends with Laura for years, their kids growing up together. She never expected a Scottsdale detective would be calling her that evening to let her know Laura and Valeria were shot dead at the office. Almost immediately, detectives recognized something at the crime scene.
It was a unique set of casings that were used in the law firm murders. Those same type of casings were the same ones found at the Stephen Pitt murder.
Could they be related? A famous forensic psychiatrist and 2 paralegals killed within 24 hours. Before investigators could even clear the law office scene, the killer struck again.
Medic.
Let me get them on the line. Don't hang up.
About midnight, as we were wrapping up, kind of finishing up what we could do at the law firm murders, we heard on the police radio of officers responding to a shooting at a psychologist's office.
What's his name?
Marshall Levine.
About 10 minutes north of the law office murders, life coach Marshall Levine found dead inside his office. The same kind of casings, again, yet no clear suspect and no knowing who could be next. There was a tangible fear felt around town, a serial killer on the loose.
We're asking the public to remain vigilant.
Stephen Pitt, Valeria Sharp, Laura Anderson, Marshall Levine. The murders seemed random, but attorney Elizabeth Feldman was starting to put the pieces together, a hunch that maybe there was a link.
I think one of the first questions was, what's the connection between your office and Pitt? And I would say the Jones case.
The Jones case, not something that came to mind right away for Elizabeth, because it was a case she had dealt with a decade earlier. She had represented Connie Jones, a Scottsdale doctor, in a divorce and custody case with her husband of 20 years, Dwight Jones. The two shared a son. It was Connie who had the steady job, the breadwinner of the family. Dwight had struggled to keep a job after being in the Army. Things just went downhill from there. Elizabeth told investigators that was the only case she shared with Stephen Pitt. Maybe she was who Dwight meant to kill, and that thought led to another. Maybe Marshall Levine wasn't supposed to die either. Elizabeth called Connie Jones and Connie's now husband, Rick.
I remember talking to her and Rick, and they said, do you realize that the third location is Karen Colby's office? And that's when I said, well, it's obviously Dwight.
Karen Colby. That was a new name. It's a name you could find on the marquee outside the office building next to Marshall Levine's name.
She wasn't in that space anymore. Dr. Levine was there, kind of a sublet situation.
But she was still working in the same building and had also gone home that Friday night. Marshall stayed behind. The two agreed they needed to get lunch together soon. The link? Karen was a therapist who treated Dwight Jones's son.
They said, does the name Dwight Jones mean anything to you? And the second they said it, I just looked at my husband who's sitting next to me and I said, oh my God, he was after me.
She could remember the fear Connie and her son had for Dwight, like he was a ticking time bomb. It's the reason Connie hired security to wait for them after appointments.
It's a matter of when. It's a matter of when I'm going to read a headline that said that he went off. That's how dangerous I assumed he was.
Elizabeth Feldman was the one who called Scottsdale police to give them the Dwight Jones tip. Detective Lockerbie said that's when the investigation ramped up quick.
We had detectives that were actively looking for Dwight Jones, and it was more of intuition and luck that they came across his vehicle on Scottsdale Road.
He was driving his gold Mercedes, taking it to and from the extended stay hotel in Scottsdale, where Connie told investigators he had been living. But they also tracked his car somewhere else, to a home in Fountain Hills, Arizona. Fountain Hills is a town about 30 minutes east of Scottsdale. In fact, to get there, you have to drive through Scottsdale first. There you'll find nice homes, resorts and clubs, and a large retirement community. Why would Dwight Jones be going there? Well, inside the home, a gruesome scene not unlike the others.
When you guys located his car and located him, at that point you did not know that Brian and Mary had been killed.
That is correct.
Brian Thomas and Mary Simmons were an older couple, and their deaths stumped investigators. By this point, detectives had been able to link Dwight Jones's murders, or intended murders, to his bitter divorce and custody battle. But Brian and Mary had nothing to do with that. So why did he take their lives too? That answer, though a bit blurry, would come a week later. Mary was known in the Fountain Hills community as an avid tennis player, Investigators discovered Dwight Jones had been her tennis partner at one point, and they played together fairly often. But tennis couldn't possibly be a reason to kill the couple. When detectives found Brian and Mary's bodies, they found the home burglarized and found a .22 caliber handgun Dwight had thrown away after stealing it from their home. They also discovered Dwight may have asked the couple for money, and they refused. It was at that time that people started to find YouTube videos Dwight Jones had posted just days earlier.
Hello YouTube, and welcome to my channel. I'm going to try to give you the short version of a very long story.
The videos show a white mask, with Dwight's voice narrating over videos of risk assessment interviews between his wife Connie Jones and Dr. Stephen Pitt.
This is my ex-wife talking to a guy named Dr. Stephen Pitt. It was a setup to say I was a batterer. She claimed I hit her, even though the police found no evidence of a physical struggle.
Even more concerning, videos he had voiced for his son, mentioning another familiar name, his son's therapist.
I've been trying to contact you since the last time I've seen you, which was 2011. I know she's told you many lies about why we got a divorce. To this day, I don't have all of your records from Karen Colby, your counselor.
6 victims dead, allegedly at the hands of one man in the matter of just a few days. It was a terrifying reality for everyone. Connie Jones and her family had gone into hiding in Flagstaff, so detectives flew up by helicopter to get their DNA and got a match to evidence from the crime scenes. Dwight was a mass murderer that needed to be stopped.
You need to go behind that building over there.
Before the sun could even begin to rise on June 4th, a mass evacuation effort was in place at the extended stay hotel in Scottsdale. Detectives knew Dwight was staying there and wanted all hotel guests and residents out before they moved in. Quietly, they ushered people out, still in their pajamas, unknowingly sleeping just rooms away from a ruthless killer. Before officers could get to Dwight,
we can hear shots being fired.
He shot out his hotel room window at them, then shot himself, taking his own life. Inside his room and his car, detectives found numerous concerning things. Articles about his killing spree in the Arizona Republic, a list of names related to his divorce and custody battle. A few names on that list: Stephen Pitt, Elizabeth Feldman, Karen Colby. Dwight Jones's death meant one thing for sure: nobody else would die at his hands. Karen Colby thought, thank God.
How did you feel when you found out he was dead?
Relieved. Really relieved.
Relief is met with other emotions. Dwight Jones meant to kill her. Instead, he killed the person he ran into in the office, Marshall Levine, a man Dwight had never even met.
This extreme kind of crushing guilt that I felt has been a lot to work through.
Connie Jones would address the media for the first time in Flagstaff, where they had fled to try and protect themselves.
And he would wait until my defenses were down.
She described a tumultuous marriage, a man who couldn't keep a job, a man who became an angry, depressed, and violent person.
I felt that I had a personal terrorist.
You probably have the same question so many across the valley had too. If the divorce and custody case happened 10 years earlier, why now? Why in 2018 would he act on his anger? Attorney Elizabeth Feldman believes that answer is not a surprise. It came down to money. Connie was fully supporting Dwight financially and had been for years, but after 5 years, she was done paying alimony. But Elizabeth told us Dwight contacted her and Connie after that for an IRA payment.
And how much was that?
I want to say his portion was around $60,000.
And that was given to him when?
I think it was given to him about January 2017.
So you think he ran out?
Yes.
No more money, no steady job, no wife, no relationship with his son. It appeared Dwight Jones had nothing left to live for. The way this ended brought up memories and concerns Karen Colby had forgotten about from 8 years before, the way the Jones case was handled in court. Karen recalled in April of 2010, she was subpoenaed to testify in court in front of Dwight Jones about what his son had told her in their private therapy sessions.
When the attorney was asking me to show up in court with Dwight sitting there looking at me, testifying, I said, I am not comfortable with that.
Not only did Karen fear what Dwight was capable of, but she also felt this was a violation of privacy. She got her documents sealed by the custody negotiator and signed by a judge, then wrote an objection letter claiming testifying could put his son and herself in danger.
I objected formally to the subpoena that I got to appear, and the response I got back was from the attorney and then approved by the judge was, too bad, you have to come anyway.
In what now feels extremely ironic, that attorney was Dwight Jones's other intended target in the murder spree, Elizabeth Feldman. I asked Elizabeth about the situation point blank.
She was very resistant. And I understand that, personally, safety-wise, I even understand it professionally. The more willing she was, the better for our case. Did it put her in danger? Probably. It comes with the jobs in the situation. It comes with my job too.
It's not something Karen will forget.
Nothing was gained, and Dwight got a good look at me.
In my interviews with Elizabeth Feldman and Karen Colby, both highlighted issues within the family court system, a system that they claim is broken. Elizabeth told us Dwight had a domestic violence arrest after a situation escalated at home where he tried to use his son as a shield in a standoff with police. This happened years earlier, yet the gun Dwight Jones used in the murder spree, he legally owned. Elizabeth said he never should have been able to lawfully own a gun after that first standoff. Karen Colby told us in the family court structure, there's no protection for mental health professionals or their clients' confidential conversations. Both told me things need to change. Connie Jones and her family have kept a low profile since this rocked the community. If there was any sort of silver lining to come from a horrible situation, it was where Connie found love again. Her husband, Rick, was a former police officer. He was the person she had hired as security so many years ago to protect her and her son from Dwight. His protection and dedication to her family turned into love, and the two were married. This was a case unlike anything Scottsdale police had ever seen. For those 5 days of murder after murder, it was frustrating agony for Sergeant Hugh Lockerbie and his team, desperately trying to catch the killer before he struck again. What would you ask the man who left an entire city paralyzed in fear while taking the lives of innocent people? There's no easy answer.
If you had a chance to say anything to Dwight Jones, what would you say to him?
I don't know. I mean, when you're dealing with a narcissistic sociopathic killer, I don't think there's one thing that I would want to say to him.
True Crime Arizona, the podcast, is hosted by me, Brianna Whitney, produced by Sergio Hernandez, edited by Rick Olivares. It's a production of Arizona's Family, 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona. To watch the video version on your smart TV, download the free AZ Family streaming news app.